Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you've had a great weekend. And we are trusting God to do great things for you and just encourage you. Even though locally here we've been through a really tough time, but we're looking up, we're looking forward, and we're trusting God for the future. But our hearts do go out to you people who have suffered such bereavement. But I'm on a mission. We're into the last week of our series of what to do when Jesus told us to do certain things. And over the course of the last, I don't know how many days now, we've been looking at things Jesus told us to do. And we've been looking at a number of things in the context of this one thing. Saying if we just do that one thing that Jesus tells us to do, life may never be the same again. If we just do that one thing that Jesus tells us to do, a whole bunch of other things we've said how many times will either become easier to do or even unnecessary. The last one thing that we're going to be looking at, other than the last one, is going to be found that one in John 17, where we've been looking at the rich young ruler, and Jesus saying, one thing you lack. I looked according to this young man from a worldly point of view that he lacked nothing. He was rich, he was young, and he was a ruler. He had power. It looked like, in a worldly sense, there wasn't much that this guy really lacked. But Jesus honed in on the one thing that he did lack. And it was not a legal thing, it was a financial thing, it was a love thing. And so we've been looking at what this love looks like. What does it mean to really have God's love, to respond to God's love, and then to live out God's love, knowing that if we love like He tells us to love, a whole bunch of other things in our lives will become easier or unnecessary to do. It's this one thing. And so we turn to 1 Corinthians 13, where from verse 4 to through about verse 7, it's incredibly practical. Don't you love how it didn't just tell us what to do, it tells us how to do it. It tells us what it looks like. And so we've been looking this last week at what this love really looks like. In verse 5, it says, love is not irritable or resentful. Now, that's the one we did last time. But I don't think I did it justice. So I've turned now to the NIV version. It just gives us a slightly different angle where it says, love is not easily angered and keeps no record of wrong. It says love is not easily angered. It doesn't say it's not angered. It says it's not easily angered. Because my thesis is that there are some things that we should be angry about. We should be angry about injustice. We should be angry about all the things that are going on in the world that are not according to the will of God. We as Christians should be angry about that stuff and lovingly seek to do something about it. But I want to talk to you today about what it means to be able to not be angry about the stupid stuff and not to sweat the small stuff. Now we say, if I'm not going to be easily angered, how do I do that? Well, there are two categories of what to be angry about. The first one is to be angry about the things that you cannot control. Hey, lots of things you can't control. And at a time like that, you've got to resist the temptation to anger and trust the sovereignty of God. You don't understand it. It's out of your control. The temptation to big anger is huge. Think of Joseph after he'd been totally trashed by his brothers, put in prison, lied about, and he comes out and everybody says to him, aren't you angry? He says, not at all. People intended all that stuff for evil, but I'm trusting God to know He had it for me for good. And he trusted the sovereignty of God. And that helped him to deal with the big anger issues over the big things in his life that actually he had no real control over. So if you're going through situations today, the short story is this. Terribly sorry. Don't want to belittle your pain. But here's the deal. Don't get angry over that stuff. Learn, like Joseph, to trust the sovereignty of God. The world does not like you. The system does not like you. It's out there to get you. And when it does from time to time, don't get angry with God. Trust His sovereignty. The second category of anger is angry about the stupid stuff. We get angry about the silliest and most ridiculous of things. We get angry about people who fail us. People, program yourself for that kind of failure. Don't sweat that small stuff. You've got to understand, we live in a fallen world and people are going to fail you. So program your mind to that. I find it difficult because I'm so jolly trusting. If you say it, I expect you to do it, and when you don't, I will be disappointed. But disappointment is one thing, but anger is another. Program your mind for disappointment so that it never turns into anger. Those two little things could save you a lot of pain. So I hope that as we look at this thing, we look at Peter, who disappointed Jesus, but Jesus was never angry with Peter. Even though time after time, Peter's walking on water and he takes his eyes off Jesus. Jesus was never angry. I'm sure he was a bit disappointed, but he reached out his hand and he took Peter in. Later on, we see Peter making a stupid declaration to say, Jesus, I will never leave you and I will stay with you right through to the end. And Jesus said, nah, I don't think you're going to do that. I think you're going to fail me. In fact, you're going to fail me so badly that the cockerel is going to crow and you have denied me 3 times. But Peter, it's okay. I have prayed for you. Maybe we should take on that attitude when it comes to people around us. They're going to disappoint us. So those 2 things. Don't get angry about things you cannot control. So trust the sovereignty of God. And for goodness sake, people, stop sweating the small stuff and learn to pray for people. And that will do a lot to help you against getting angry about things when they disappoint you. Go and have a great day. Cheers. Bye.